This project is part of my artistic development work, and it's about our food system. If you take this rhubarb that's growing here in front of my feet and you bring that over to the kitchen, you process it and you turn it into something edible. That's a very local food chain. Problem today is that that's not the way our food chain look like. If you go into a supermarket today, you find endless products with packaging plastic. All the products there need to have a minimum of 15 days shelf life, which means that you need to put additives, you need to process the food, you need to package the food. All of that is done within the realm of a productivity paradigm, which means that that's a great advantage to scale up production, and that goes all the way back to the farms. So we have large-scale farming with monocultures, we have chemical fertilizers, we have pesticides, we have a high level of mechanization, we then have a lot of transport, we have a lot of processing, and then many times things get transported in between. So before it reaches the shelf in the supermarket, it may have traveled all around the globe, and that's the core of the problem with an industrial food chain, is that we haven't got a clue how much resources, how much energy, how much water, how much land has been toxified, how many people have got hurt in this process. We simply don't know. We just see the brands, we see the packaging, we buy it, we go home, we consume it, and we throw away the garbage. And society is kind enough to take care of what's left over, which is toxic waste. This is the core of this project. What we've tried to do here is to create a miniature food chain, trying to provide us, our family, with as much fruits, vegetables, flowers as we can, and we do it here in the central Malmö, but we also obviously use this place for recreation, to get some fresh air and being outdoor and get a bit of exercise from working the soil, which I think is good for you. And there's also a social dimension to this form of growing when you do it in a community, because you get to know the neighbors, you get to speak to them, you get to it's sort of good for the community. Because we have lots of rabbits around here, we needed to create a safe zone for growing vegetables, and we also took the opportunity to use the fence for supporting fruit trees, kind of spalier growing, which means that you take trees which are put on a weak or a slow growing stem, so the trees actually grow very slowly, and you then control the way they grow so that they create a sort of wall where you get the fruits reachable without a ladder, and you don't get so much shadow, and you can sort of control the shape of the trees, which allows you to grow a great variety of fruits. The principle of the construction of the building is plinths out of concrete, and then a solid wood structure, cross-laminated timber, 70 millimeter thick. When we took over this place, there was a building here, but it was in very poor condition, so we couldn't save it, so we had to tear it down. But that gave us the opportunity to plan this place exactly as we wanted it. We decided to put an earth cellar under the building, and the reason to put it there is that it's protecting from sunlight, and you can access it from the floor inside the kitchen. The space inside has 3 spatial functions. There's the kitchen, there is the main hall, and there is the bedroom, and all of this in all is 20 square meter, and that was what you were allowed to build. This place is off the grid, so we don't have any electricity, and we only have cold water during the summer. So we decided that we should harvest the sun to create hot water and to create electricity. So we produce our own electricity, and we have 2 batteries, and we use it for light and for charging electric tools and phones and such. The water, we have a special solar heater, which is in principle a tank, a 15-liter water tank out of stainless steel, which is operated in an analog fashion. You let the water, the pressure of the water from the grid takes the water up to the tank, and once it's full, the water is coming out of the tank, and then you close the valve, and then inside the building you have another valve where you let the hot water out. So on a sunny day we can get 70 degrees centigrades hot water, and if it's cloudy day it's maybe between 40-50 degrees. I have a special interest in lighting, so we have tried to use daylight in a way that we create good lighting conditions inside. Doing that, it's not a matter of having a lot of windows or big windows, but to position the windows in a place where light is needed. So we have 2 windows that's illuminating the kitchen sink. We have 2 small windows up by the ceiling that is giving an overall sort of omni light. We have 1 window at the back of the building catching the late evening sun, and then we have 2 small windows for being able to read in the beds with daylight. The greenhouse is a way of prolonging the season. We can start growing earlier, and we can grow things which are not normally possible to grow on free land, such as cucumber, tomatoes, certain spices like basil, and a few other things. And the good thing with the greenhouse is that you, of course, the principle of it is that you create a sort of microclimate. There is an old tradition to build greenhouses with a couple of steps down, so that you walk on a lower level and the beds where you're growing is a bit elevated, and it's then easier to work. It's a pure ergonomy thing. And you also get the advantage that the building can be made lower, so it doesn't become so dominant. The compost, that is the engine of the natural system we have here on the allotment. That's where all the rest products from this venture here goes, and it will, by fungi, worms, bacteria, be transformed into good fertile soil, which we will be able to put back on our growing plot. Yeah, the problem with an industrial food chain is that we cannot overview the consequences of it. We just know that it has enormous environmental impact, and it is very difficult to assess. And if we want to try to do something about it, it's very unlikely that we succeed if we maintain the system as it is today. When Greta Thunberg is telling us that we're in trouble, she's right, because our whole food system is 100% depending on fossil fuels at the moment. You may be an organic farmer, you may have the best of intentions, but since we have a structurally unsustainable society in all sectors, it is impossible to arrange the food system in a sustainable way. It just simply have to go. And when I say that it has to go, I mean that we need to reconsider, how we grow things, and where we grow things, and where we process things. We need to re-establish biodiversity in the agricultural landscape. We need to understand that resources for packaging is not just something that happens. A lot of packaging come from paper. That's forestry. We need to make sure that we manage our forests in a good way, so we can get paper. If we want to abandon plastic, for example, we need to make sure that we're not overexploiting the forests, which we're actually already doing. So there's a lot of issues which are sort of interconnected that we need to understand.